Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going pretty good. Like always, we have a lot to cover this week, but this week's a little bit special and we'll get into it. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So we did get some concern from the community about you, Zep. They were concerned that you had been taken captive last week, so we're happy that you're free now.
No, I was taken captive. Please send help. It was a real procedure getting inside of that box and even longer getting out, but I've escaped.
Yeah, well, your audio certainly sounds better this week, so we appreciate that. Now, I know we do have a council member edition, and we're going to get to that shortly, but I want to actually lead off with Neuron. I talked to their CEO, James. He was talking about how they're focusing initially in the realm of DLT and IoT, or Internet of Things, on aviation, but he has a really broad vision, and I think it's going to allow him to compete with the likes of Helium, and with Hedera underpinning his technology, I think he's going to have a real leg up. So let's listen to what he has to say. James, Neuron is focused on combining DLT and Internet of Things, or IoT. Can you tell us about your initial drone tracking use case that captured a lot of attention early on, and then maybe how Neuron is now expanding that IoT scope into some new areas?
Yeah, sure. We've been doing tons of work on the aviation use case, and it's really our focus at the moment. We've got two huge pilot projects. One of them is at Cranfield Airport. It's called Project Blueprint. We actually had our launch event last week. We had 120 executives turn up. We had people within government departments there. We had 4 members of the regulatory team there, the Civil Aviation Authority. We even had Google Wing there watching us and commenting, asking us some great questions. So there was some really good attendance from some top companies, big aerospace companies and big technology companies, really interested in what we're doing. And I think we're now getting consensus within industry that this is the right solution, and having these ground-based sensor networks is really what is needed. The regulator even said we need a solution like this. This is the future of the solution. So we kind of got that validation now from the market, from the regulator, from government, that this is the right approach to be taking. And so really what we're doing at the moment is we're running a bunch of trials, I guess, and basically making sure that proving to the regulator that each of these different steps have been passed. So we're working alongside the regulator in a sandbox environment with them. So they're basically giving us free help and support with our go-to-market. And then once we've achieved that, we can then start the commercialization and expansion of these networks at scale. But we need to go and get things right. So, the regulator wants to know it's safe. They want to know it's secure. They want to know it's appropriate for an aviation environment. And so we're ticking off those boxes first. But we're not that far. We're probably within the next 12 months at the point where we've ticked those boxes out off, and we're then able to start scaling. And the other project we've got is actually down in Cornwall. So quite interesting. The National Health Service and Royal Mail have problems delivering things to the small islands off the shore of Cornwall. And it basically takes ages to go and get anything out there. But what a few of the drone delivery companies are doing is setting up drone operations down there to be able to deliver things across to the islands. And that basically means that we're deploying sensor networks down there, integrating with those drone delivery partners, and then providing a service, drone delivery services for those end users. But Royal Mail and NHS are huge customers. I think the NHS is actually the largest employer on the planet, so they're huge. They want to use them for things like time critical drugs, so chemotherapy, cancer drugs, delivery of blood, samples, things like this. And Royal Mail, well, they deliver your mail. So there's lots of deliveries that are needed there.
We had talked before about something that reminded me a lot of what the Helium network is doing. Can you go into that a bit?
Yeah, sure. So we kind of, this whole started around the aviation use case, and we quickly realized that actually this problem exists in other industries as well. It's the whole problem of, where you've got lots of devices out there in the real world, and then lots of people who need to use them. So lots of services that need to be provided. And in essence, what we did is there's lots of drone applications that need the sensor data, for example. But this occurs in other things, so electric vehicle charging, weather sensing, air quality sensing, even down to things like Wi-Fi hotspots. you've got lots of devices, lots of users. And so really what we did is abstracted the problem and said, well, what other things could we do apart from aviation? And the core thing there is discovery. So how do we discover devices? How does an application discover a device? How does it connect to them? And then why would the device want to do that in the first place? Well, it wants to be paid. So the settlement layer as well. So you have discovery, connectivity, and settlement are the three kind of core services are part of that. And we're having to develop them for the aviation use case. So we're kind of abstracting that and saying, well, why wouldn't we just provide that for other devices as well? And so that's really what Neuron has become is an IoT layer. There's things such as Helium. What Helium does is it basically provides a low bandwidth Wi-Fi link, long range, into these sort of edge devices. So that could be temperature sensors in fields and things like this. Now, the thing with that, I think Helium had a little bit of an issue around that their supply and demand were in different locations. The demand for LoRaWAN, which is basically what their devices provide as a connectivity service, it basically is useful in rural areas where you can't get 4G or 5G. It's in remote locations, but all of their devices are in cities. So you've kind of got this disparity between supply and demand where they're actually in the opposite locations. And so I think this is why they've switched to the sort of 5G model, which is in cities, which is where a lot of their users will be. So I think Helium are very much focused on a specific problem, which is connectivity at the moment. We're focused at the moment on aviation, but what we're looking to do is abstracting that to other device types. And we've developed a really nice model for doing so. Neuron wants to be the internet of things rather than the intranet of things. Each of these different use cases, how do you bring those all together into a single vision for the community? And that's really what the big idea is for Neuron.
So now you mentioned how they have the devices on Helium. Are you going to have similar devices that facilitate what you're trying to build? And is there other ways that people are going to be able to get involved with what you're trying to build?
Yeah, so in terms of types of device that we're going to integrate, at first it's the aircraft tracking sensors. But the first step really is how do we build the backhaul for this? How do we go and get that data into the network? And how do we create the chain of security from transistors right the way through to the network itself? In terms of the middle piece, like really what we're trying to do here is to create a peer-to-peer network. It's very much peer-to-peer in terms of device to application. The Neuron bit is really just the piece which creates the match between those two elements and does the settlement layer. In terms of like where we want to go next with this, I'm not entirely sure exactly what that roadmap is going to look like. We've got probably a good 12-month roadmap very much secured down. But what we want to be able to do is to give the community a chance to start helping us to build this network out. We've got these two big sandbox environments in Cranfield and down in Cornwall. But what we need to start doing is building up this kind of backhaul on a global level and start introducing these aviation sensors, even if it's at a low density at first, to start giving us some of the data that we need to be able to prove the use case out. So yes, there will be opportunities for the community. We've got some very firm plans on what they will be. I'm not quite sure we're ready yet to release that, but watch this space, and within the next couple of months, you'll be hearing from us.
That's fair enough. And you have to start someplace. I think this aviation use case is a great place to start. After all, Amazon started as just a book retailer, but they had broad visions for where they were going to go from there. And that's exactly what it sounds like you have as well. So you started off, of course, building on Hedera, and that partnership has continued. Now you're getting some exposure of these big executives, these big enterprises. How has the continued use of Hedera been for you? And what is the reception like from some of these executives you're talking about?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've found is that the traditional industry space and the Web3 space are like oil and water a little bit. So if you start going up to one of these big aerospace companies and start talking crypto with them, like you'll lose them within seconds. So what you have to do is to separate the models out. And this is how we've done it by having the device and application and doing the peer-to-peer between device and application, because the app can be a traditional SaaS model. There's no problem with the app being a SaaS model, and it can interact with the end users in a SaaS environment with fiat money and etc. But the device itself, these are generally going to be people within the Web3 space, or maybe even the aviation space if they're installing aviation sensors. So we think there's really a huge community of aviation people who want to basically take part in building networks themselves. So we actually think we can bring those into the Hedera community as well. In terms of how we operate, like we're currently building the token models out with our accelerator that we're working with at the moment. And it's going to probably be a mixture between token and a stable coin. And there's some reasons for that. But the key part is that we need to go and get that model right so that those industry partners will be able to interact with us in a way that works. Watch the space on that. We're still in development, but there's some exciting stuff going to be coming out.
No, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to be paying really close attention to what you're doing. So let's broaden our lens here a little bit. In the long term, how do you see IoT and DLT interacting to change the landscape across industries?
So I think IoT and DLT are perfectly matched for each other, to be honest. Internet of Things is the idea of an object out there in the real world being able to be connected by a third party. And really, the essence of that is peer-to-peer. And what was Bitcoin? Peer-to-peer digital cash. IoT is peer-to-peer. Web3 is peer-to-peer. Like they match up perfectly with each other. We haven't really seen we have seen a few real-world use cases in terms of like physical objects out there working and interacting with Web3 environments, but most of it's being sort of online, digital, financial kind of worlds with Web3. I think over the next few years, we're going to start seeing Web3 in our everyday lives. There's going to be real world objects interacting with Web3 environments rather than just your bank account or wallet address or on your some NFTs on your computer. So I think this is going to be the big transition, and IoT I think is the way that's going to happen. What we need to see though is a transition away from all of these siloed use cases to something more internet level. As I kind of keep using the analogy, we're not trying to build an intranet of things, we're trying to build an internet of things. And so how do you build that internet in a way that is open, transparent, and so anyone can get involved with that? That's the key, and that's whoever solves that problem, hopefully it's us, but whoever can solve that problem is going to be a huge change, I think, for not just the Web3 space, but also the IoT space, which has largely been confined to sort of use case-based IoT rather than an actual IoT environment or an ecosystem that we really need.
James, I absolutely love your vision. I can't wait to see all this come together. Thank you for coming on today and telling us about it. And please come back to give us updates as things progress.
Perfect. Great to see you, Brandon. And we'll speak again soon.
Incredible to hear him speak to that sort of capacity of A, the people that were in that audience, but B, that they've chosen Hedera as the most natural fit option. You know, of course, we had Helium that migrated to Solana, but when you look at Helium, you've got to understand who the VC and the investment behind Helium was. You know, there's a lot of mutual investments between people behind Helium and the people behind Solana, or at least crossovers in their ecosystems. And so rather than it being sort of the most organic option, I think, for Helium to go to Solana, there was a lot of money on the line that was pushing them in that direction. And of course, we know, having seen what Greg put together in that video when you guys covered how Hedera could facilitate Helium, we saw that Hedera could be the perfect fit, almost like it was built for purpose for that kind of use case. And so when you look at Neuron, who haven't got that sort of external VC pressure, that external financial pressure pushing them in a direction, they've had the opportunity to sniff out what they think is the best DLT and go all in on it. And so to hear them, another high caliber team that, one that we met early on, maybe sort of a year or so ago, has been relatively quiet, and to know that they've just been building behind the scenes with that extent of people. He's mentioned Google Drone, the sort of equivalent Amazon Prime drone service. That kind of use case, that kind of scale can only be facilitated by Hedera. Neuron's realized that, and of course we've got another A-star team pushing that. So I think, to see where that takes us, to see such a I guess, innovative use case for DLT. And we see every week we're at the very early stages of this technology, and here we are with a new technology that can leverage it perfectly. So yeah, very excited to see where that takes us.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We wonder, what could be the next use case that could push tremendous volumes like what we're seeing with App.io. And a lot of times we'll talk about the Coupon Bureau with the new standards of coupons in the United States. We talk about TradFi, the amount of trades that could take place. But I think Internet of Things is potentially the use case that could push the most transactions. I know Rob Allen talks about this with smart cities and so forth, but you have to start someplace. And I think aviation is a great place to start. And Neuron's going to be fun to watch how they progress going into the future. All right, I think we do need to get to the latest council member addition, Cofra. Cofra is a private conglomerate that covers financial services, private equity, real estate, retail, and renewable energy. They have subsidiaries that include CNA. They're a retailer. They've been around since 1841, Redevco, Bregel Investments, and Anthos Fund and Asset Management. It sounds like from the buzz that I've heard out there that the initial use cases they're looking at are under sustainability, but of course with all of their businesses, there's plenty of potential for them to leverage the network. They have approximately 51,000 employees, so just because they are private doesn't mean they're small, and they're headquartered over there in Switzerland. And Zeb, you had a fantastic tweet thread kind of going into the potential for Cofra. What are your thoughts on this council member addition?
Yeah, I mean, at the face level, they're not the flashiest name. It's not an LG, it's not a Google, it's not an EDF or whoever it might be. But when you really dig into it, you realize just how much potential utility there is across their portfolio companies. They have this major focus on sustainability, which is, of course, a massive part of our own ecosystem. We've got the Hedera Guardian, which is sort of best in class at what it does. And that Guardian has attracted a lot of eyes, the likes of EDF Energy, from the likes of ServiceNow, DLA Pipers, so on and so forth. But when you look at their portfolio companies and you see that they're working in sustainable clothes, they're working in sustainable investments on their investment arm, they've got these greenhouses and solar panels, it all points toward not only using, say, the Hedera consensus service, but also other parts for, like the Hedera token service within the Guardian or the Hedera smart contract service. To me, it seems there's a lot of different services and therefore lots of different revenue streams that could come across their portfolio company. So whilst I saw people saying, it didn't boost the price of the HBAR on the news or anything like that, I think this is going to be one of those slow burners where, we see them slowly test out new use cases and then generate the revenue behind the scenes as a big company in itself, or a big portfolio company rather. And I think we're going to see it over time just boost that revenue, which of course we need to become a network that's sustainable. So I think, not on the front surface, the most flashy, but I think we're really going to see a lot of utility from them. And of course, we know that if they don't have that super flashy name, of course, they've been taken into the council for a very, very strong reason. And I think that is that they've got a lot of different scopes of use cases they're excited for. They're a very old company, but they're very innovative, hence how they've stayed alive for this long. And we know that they're focusing on DLT now, and this is their entry. So again, a very old company in this case, choosing Hedera, showing just how appealing our council is, that even 300-year-old company can feel safe and secure working with us. I think that really is a testament to what the council is, the stability of the council, but also the stability of our network as a whole. So yeah, excited to see what they bring to the table.
Yeah, my main focus, and I'm sure the focus for the membership committee for the Hedera Governing Council, is we want motivated enterprises that want to use the network and are going to put transactions on the network and generate fees for the network. All of these enterprises are huge and can easily move the needle on their own. You just have to have that motivation to use the network, and I'm hoping that we're going to see that come out of Cofra. All right, so the other thing when it comes to the council members is the next council member meeting, which is going to be held just next week, is going to be hosted by Google, and it looks like it's going to be impressive. We saw a tweet come out from Christian, and it looked pretty impressive. What are your thoughts on this next council member meeting at Google?
That post from Christian was, I was really, really excited to see that. In the middle of the Google offices, this massive screen that displays not just Google's name, but the entire council. And, they don't have to host a meeting. I'm sure it comes at an expense. It comes at organizational expense, time expense. It's not a small deal, I don't think, for a council member, especially of that caliber, to say, we're going to host everyone here because we're that involved in the council. We know that they were slightly quiet for a while. We know definitely been a push towards bringing these council members to life and bring some air into them. And we saw that, last week, 2 weeks ago with the Web3 startup program, put us shoulder to shoulder with some of the biggest names in the industry, especially as one of the institutional ones. But then to see them also host this, bringing them into their Web3 startup, which they can do all online, is one thing. But then having us hosted on their physical site is a completely different. And it's really exciting to see them want to host that. I'm sure Kristen on the ground there letting us know what's happening.
And sticking with the council, Zep, we also had some news come out of LG, specifically around their LG Art Lab. Do you have any information on that?
I'm loving the amount of council news this week. I mean, we saw CoinDesk come out and with an article that, of course, mentioned Hedera front of the room alongside LG, talking about the LG Art Lab, but in the context this time of that LG is pursuing to patent their TV NFT technology. I don't know if that means they'll corner the market for TVs on NFTs as a whole, or if this is for their own LG NFT TVs or whatever it is. But we do know that LG's core NFT infrastructure is Hedera. So to see that them working for a patent there, which I would 99% assume will be on Hedera is exciting. We've got Hedera in the article there. LG's Art Labs infrastructure is all on Hedera. So to see them pursuing that patent, which hopefully is just on Hedera, that would be fantastic. But either way is bullish news for us.
Well, it shows that they're still active in the space. And it's just great to see all of our council members just pursuing whatever their vertical is on Hedera. But we do have some medium-sized companies that are making a splash as well. And the one that I want to talk about next is Red Swan. So I caught up with Ed Nwakati. He is the CEO of Red Swan. We heard about Red Swan going back to 2019, where they were talking about tokenizing real estate on Hedera. But we have some more information that's coming out about it. So listen to what Ed has to say. Ed, I heard about Red Swan building on Hedera years ago. Can you tell us about your business and your journey to this point?
Sure. We are a marketplace of digital assets. We provide liquidity for sponsors and also a much more affordable process for retail investors to buy high quality commercial real estate by digitizing it into shares.
Understood. So how exactly do you leverage Hedera and what benefits will it bring to Red Swan and then, of course, in turn, your customers?
Well, we've been working with Hedera for quite some time. Like you said, back in 2019, we started doing some marketing just to kind of explain what tokenization was to some of their customers through advertisements and video. But now we are really excited to be able to create a token standard, a SEC compliant token standard for issuing digital security tokens of all types, but specifically in our case for commercial real estate. And so we're going to kick that off very soon. You'll be seeing a press release, but we're excited because it allows now for any Hedera member to be able to tokenize assets in a secure manner and it's compliant with the SEC regulations. But it also allows Red Swan to bring billions of dollars worth of high quality commercial real estate to the Hedera ecosystem.
And have you actually tokenized any real estate to this point, or is that coming in the future? And then what are the marketplaces going to look like?
Yeah, we have tokenized about $5 billion worth of assets so far, all U.S. assets. I'm really proud that we're closing on a large portfolio, over $2.5 billion from Qatar. So we're opening up some options in that market in the Middle East. We also opened an office in Lagos, Nigeria to kind of cover the African continent. So we're really branching out to tokenize assets to bring opportunities in 3 different continents to not only our users on Red Swan, but now to the Hedera marketplace.
Well, Ed, just like all entrepreneurs, I'm sure you have a really big vision for this. What do you think the future looks like for tokenized real estate?
The future is huge. Real estate is the largest asset class in the world. We're focused on commercial real estate, which is a market cap of about $75 trillion. And right now, there's, I would say, about 35% of all commercial real estate has the equity tied up. So that's about $26 trillion worth of equity that's just trapped in the real estate. We think we're providing a significant benefit to property owners to kind of recapitalize that equity by pulling it out of their properties while they still maintain their GPU leadership and management status, but now they have that liquidity to go ahead and buy or develop new projects. So we're really excited about that. But, for users, real estate has always been kind of the wealthy game. Smaller investors were not able to buy into high quality projects. And those high quality projects are the ones that have the less risk because they have the better tenancy, the better management, and they're newer. So you have less maintenance issues. So we think by bringing these types of opportunities to more general investors, both foreign investors as well as Reg D investors here in the United States, it opens up many options of affordability and access, and but also a unique benefit of tokenization is a liquidity benefit. So if they decide they have a change in events in their family lifestyle and they want to liquidate some shares, or some or all, they can now do so using blockchain technology.
So that's one of the main goals, is the fractionalization and democratization of real estate in general?
It is. I mean, fractionalization just allows them to be able to buy into projects as low as, in some cases, $1,000. They can buy into high quality real estate, so they can crowdfund into that. But then also having that ability to sell, because some people are afraid to buy into real estate because, of course, the price tag is $250,000 or above for many quality projects, and then the lifeline for it is 5, 7, even 10 years before you can get your money back, and that prevents many investors from jumping in because they don't know what their needs are going to be in the short term or even the long term. So they just rather stay out rather than jump in. And I think now having that capability of liquidity will allow people to practice getting into real estate. Also, like you said, with the democratization aspect, they can now diversify $25,000 into 25 different types of assets, which reduces risk, but also increases their profit range and also diversification of real estate assets.
Well said. Ed, thank you so much for building within the Hedera ecosystem and of course, stopping by to explain it.
Thank you, Brandon. Really appreciate being here. Looking forward to more. This is going to be a very exciting time for all of us.
So it's great to see Red Swan there sort of publicly announcing that they are building on Hedera. We speculated for a while that Red Swan was building. We had a few breadcrumbs. We got a good amount of breadcrumbs, but this is sort of the seal of that. And I think what excites me the most about this type of use case is that I think Hedera has, for the first time, is in a position to really front run a narrative. We were playing sort of catch up with DeFi because we were waiting for the upgraded Hedera smart contract service. We were playing a bit of catch up with NFTs whilst we were waiting for that HIP. But we now have two verticals, I think, which we really can sort of front run. And that's real world asset tokenization with Red Swan, of course, tokenizing real estate, of course, with Toko as well, but also something like refi. So we've got these two narratives that I think are our strengths, which we can front run: regenerative finance and real world asset tokenization. And so next week we'll hear more from Red Swan. There'll be more public information there. So again, really great to hear from them, and to know that we're building out that RWA ecosystem is great.
Yeah, when you have this many sharp teams that are all pulling in the same direction, trying to make Hedera a success, we know that it will be. All right, another medium-sized business, and of course we've been talking about this a lot lately, is Karate Combat. So they updated their app last week to allow for the token drops. That's been going on. They've added hundreds of thousands of accounts to Hedera through this airdrop. And it's fairly easy. If you haven't gotten it, you can just go to the iOS App Store. You can go ahead and download the app, and you create a new wallet like you would for any other Hedera wallet, and you'll get an airdrop. Now, the amount of the airdrop has gone up and down, has shifted around a little bit. I think they're dealing with a lot of people that are trying to take advantage, of course, of this, but it seems like they're staying a step ahead. And just, I think, yesterday, they opened up the ability to do their up-only gaming. So the up-only gaming at their next event, which is Karate Combat 39, and it's going to be this Saturday, May 20th, you might have to update the app, but you can go in and just pick which fighters you think are going to win, and if they do, you're going to get more karate tokens. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shifts the dynamic of just being an observer, which was already fun because they put on great events, to being more dynamic and having a little bit of skin in the game. So it's easy to do. I did it this morning, and I'm going to be down there at the event, so definitely participate with us on social media. It's going to be fun to watch.
Obviously, we'll touch on how many accounts they've created later on. This is our first sort of iOS app to really take off. We know that Galaxy is in the work. I'm beta testing Galaxy, which is great. It's looking fantastic. Decentralized social media is going to be definitely one of the big narratives that I think is going to emerge over the course of time. Not that it already hasn't, but this is, one that has more energy in it to come for sure. But to see this out there full product for Karate Combat in the run up to the weekend, and to know that it's can have the capacity for the amount of users it's now got, that the airdrop worked well. Of course, there's people playing the ecosystem to some degree. A lot of people said that they did get some of their Karate Combat nonetheless. But I think even beyond Karate Combat itself, there has to be a big shout out to the Blade Labs team. I understand this is their first operating product of their white label. So as their Blade Labs white label, the Blade Wallet white label, this is the first other organization or enterprise we've seen leverage it into their own app. And, you know, to see it powered by Blade down there, to see how well it's handled that throughput, to see how professional the teams have worked with each other there has been fantastic. And, you know, that really is Blade's focus, to be able to facilitate these enterprises, or rather these big organizations, in a seamless way to onboard them into our ecosystem. And, you know, it seems that they've done that perfectly. So big shout out both to Karate Combat and Blade Labs there. On the note of Blade Labs there, they came out with their Blade Wallet version 1.1. And within this, you can now bridge assets between Hedera and Ethereum, which is amazing. I don't know what they're doing there, whether that's their own in-house or if that's Hashport, I'm not entirely sure. But that's us seeing the very first instance of this sort of multi-purpose or multi-network wallet. They've now got cold wallet native staking, which of course is beneficial for us all, and multiple payment service upgrades. So you can now buy HBAR, Ethereum, USDC, and USDT easier than before. And so I'm reading this off their account, of course. But then Sammy then said, you know, this is one of their biggest updates yet, and this is them propelling themselves towards that overall goal of onboarding the next billion users. And to see them, the success of Karate Combat, to see them pushing out these regular updates, I have full confidence in what they're doing there, and I'm excited to see where, I keep saying excited, but of course I am excited to see where they take us.
Yeah, without a question, Blade Wallets are doing a fantastic job. And I see them as core infrastructure, just like Hashpack is core infrastructure for our space. But there's also other entities in the ecosystem that are providing infrastructure as well. And Now Payments is providing payments infrastructure. And I caught up with Kate to talk about how they just integrated Hedera. So listen in. Kate, before we get into the recent announcement specifically about HBAR, could you explain what Now Payments brings to the market more broadly?
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. So Now Payments is a crypto payment gateway, and it lets businesses and individuals all over the world accept payments in crypto, and in our case, in HBAR as well. The cool thing about Now Payments is that we support more than 160 cryptocurrencies, and we have this feature which is called auto coin conversion, which basically means that people can pay in Bitcoin, for example, but if the business wants to accept HBAR, the Bitcoin will be automatically converted to HBAR, and businesses can accept HBAR if they want to. We also have fiat conversion. Of course, you know, Now Payments is mostly crypto to crypto, but I think having fiat conversion is good for onboarding more people, you know, to crypto. So we do have that. People can pay in USD, but, you know, tech-savvy merchants can accept HBAR. To finish off this quick introduction, Now Payments has lots of tools. We have API for devs, we have plugins for e-commerce websites, and we have all kinds of invoices, customized APIs for gaming or for NFT marketplaces, and stuff like that. Hope it answers your question.
Well, absolutely it does. And this is the kind of infrastructure that we need in our ecosystem. And now can you explain the integrations you've made with Hedera and HBAR specifically?
Yeah, I've already touched that a little bit. So we have integrated Hedera, HBAR, which means that businesses can now accept payments in HBAR, or they can make payouts in HBAR. They can also accept donations in HBAR. So all kinds of payment-related or donation-related stuff is possible with HBAR. I think I should also mention that there is not just Now Payments. We also have Change Now. Change Now is an exchange service which also supports HBAR, and it has an exchange API which projects can integrate, that they can also provide, you know, exchange services for the users. So it's kind of this growing ecosystem. It doesn't necessarily have to end with HBAR, because I know there are other tokens on Hedera network, and potentially, this is something we can look into, integrating other Hedera tokens.
Certainly. So some of the latest tokens we've had was Karate launched. We have things like Jam. We have Galaxy token. There are all kinds of different tokens out there. And then other tokens that are on other chains like USDC. And maybe some of your clients might want to use the efficiency of Hedera, but also use those other tokens like USDC as well. So can you discuss any partnerships or how businesses are leveraging your services at the moment?
Yeah, I can give you like a short overview of top industries that we're working with, because it's really interesting. Top industries that are using crypto payments, and in our case, now payments, usually are software providers, so people who create all kind of gaming and iGaming projects, as well as PNs and stuff like that. So this is a very big and very fast-growing industry that was one of the first ones to understand the benefits of crypto and started to integrate cryptocurrencies. So one of our top partners, gaming and iGaming projects. And then we also have traveling, which is also really interested in accepting crypto payments. Other than that, we have lots of e-commerce projects. A very fun use case is shops that sell crypto merch. For example, if there is a shop there that sells Hedera merch, it makes perfect sense for them to accept payments in HBAR and so on. I think those are some of our top industries. But to give you like a teaser, I think we are planning to create a spotlight of some of our merchants that actually accept HBAR right now. We are going to post that use case, and you can see like with your own eyes how it works and what the merchants say themselves about their experience.
So what was it about Hedera and HBAR that attracted you to it, to facilitate this integration?
Well, of course, first of all, when we are looking which cryptocurrency to integrate, we take a look at the community, which in this case, and I mean, like right now, we can see that the community is extremely active. And this is very important because it means that there will be lots of use cases, there will be businesses, individuals, merchants, people like that, who will be actively, trying to do something, maybe integrate HBAR payments themselves or just push the use case out there. So that was one of the first things that made us look at Hedera. But then again, the network itself is amazing. It's just not something that it's like very unique, and I guess for us technically it was kind of difficult to integrate and implement because it's not like really a blockchain, it's a network, and it's amazing. Integrating something unique and also providing unique use cases, just perfect synergy here. And my personal favorite Hedera is green, and we actually have made some articles around that, and it's a perfect use case for payments, because accepting payments in crypto, but also maintaining that green initiative, it's just amazing. And it's something that I think will be, at some point, it will be the key point for every merchant. Accepting something secure, something really fast, something technically amazing and green,
Couldn't agree more. And now that you've gotten over that first hurdle of learning how to integrate HBAR, like you said, you can integrate all the other tokens that are being built out in our ecosystem. All right, so the final thing, and it seems like you want to focus on developers and businesses that are leveraging these networks. What are some of the first steps for those that want to get involved?
Yeah, thanks. Awesome question. Yeah, exactly. Like when I was trying to think how to attract the community of Hedera, I thought that Hedera community is kind of developer focused. And that is why I thought I'd put our API in front of you all. One of the best ways to interact with us is just to check out our API, because we have a sandbox where developers can just play with our API without actually integrating it. And then hit us up anywhere, for example, on Twitter with your comments and ideas on how to maybe make this API better, or like your comments. And we are here to, kind of perfect it, because crypto is about community, and we can only grow better if you help us grow better, and so on. Another way to get in touch with us, if you're not a business, but you still want to kind of take part, the best way is to kind of go out there and see which businesses out there, maybe in your local area, could be interested in accepting crypto payments, and just casually mention no payments to them as a way to, benefit from Hedera. And then again, if you're a business just again hit us up in comments, and we're here to help with integrating. But as a marketing lead, I'd say the best way is do something with us to spread awareness, because that's how we'll be able to, finally get to that mass adoption thing.
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to do here today. Kate, thank you so much for stopping by and telling us about your business and the latest Hedera integration.
Thank you.
All right, Zep, so the one thing that Now Payments kind of highlighted for me is even though they're building infrastructure in that payment space, there's a lot of room in that space. We have Drop also working in that space, but they're in micropayments. It seems like Now Payments is just focused on general crypto payments, and it just shows how much, even though it's all one payments vertical, there is a lot of room to grow without that much overlap. All right, so the next thing I want to cover, we have a longtime community member, a longtime builder in the space, Yamgo, who is also behind AdsDAX, which for years was our biggest transaction producer. But they have some interesting things going on over there in the UK. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so of course, like you said, the team behind AdsDAX are a big part of our ecosystem still, and they were very much at the forefront of that TPS for a long time. So a great team that's been helping us for a long time. But so this week they've announced that they're working with the foundation. This is I think both for their Yamgo wallet, but also most significantly for their Yami's metaverse. And so I think they really want to frame this as sort of one of the key places for the community to hang out. It's going to be gaming and NFTs within this metaverse, of course, all on Hedera. So I'm excited to see them sort of make that Yami's universe a real sort of hotspot for Hedera HBAR, but also new people coming in. At the same time as this announcement, they announced another one with the University of Stirling. And so the University of Stirling is a university, of course, in Britain, i.e. the UK, and they've set up a sort of educational campaign with the students there, which exposes them both to Yamgo wallet, so a Hedera wallet, but also to the HBAR token as a reward for taking part and winning this event that they've had there. So this educational event had 3 winners. I'm not sure if we'll meet them or anything like that, but it's great to see that Hedera is being brought into the folds of universities like we have with LSE, like we have with UCL, like we have with IoT Madras and the DLT Science Foundation. It is clearly a very, very important place for us to be educating. The smartest minds across the world at these universities, they need to be onboarded and into one of the fastest growing technical industries. And that's exactly what's happening here. So great news there.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I love to see those OGs that have been building in the space for a long time having that kind of success. All right, let's move into some network analysis. All right, so over the past 24 hours, we are up to 84 million transactions. For the most part, we've been cruising around at just around 1,000 transactions per second. We had a couple dips yesterday, but I think we're going to be really close once we get past that. As long as we maintain around 1,000 transactions per second, we're going to be really close to averaging 1,000 transactions per second over a 24-hour period, which I think would be another record. And all of that with the time to consensus staying down around 4.5 seconds. Just really impressive. And I don't think we can take a look at this network without talking about the amount of accounts that have been created over this past week. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, it's staggering. We were just celebrating 2 million accounts, I think, within the last month or so. And over the course of this week, we've seen us go up 388,000 accounts, which, of course, most of these, I think, is coming from the launch of Karate Combat, which just shows that, one of these early investments by the foundation is now really starting to pay off in terms of metrics. But, you think 388,000 in a week is massive. You then look at the month and we've done 547,000, which is just a staggering amount of accounts. That's 1/5 of all the accounts on the network has been created in the last month, which is just astounding. And this is what the long-term plays were. This is what the foundation was there for, is having these early root projects, investing in them early and seeing the benefits on the mainnet a couple of, maybe a year down the line, whatever it is. The point of these investments is that they are investments. They take a while to come to fruition, but when they do, it pays dividends. So very excited to see not only TPS up there, skyrocketing, but also accounts. So yeah, great news.
Well, one thing, when we just zoom out a little bit, we take a look at the 3-month trend, and both the transactions, we were really impressed, of course, when Atmio came online and they were doing about 500 or 600 transactions per second, but that has trended up over time over the past 3 months, and it's pretty clear. And like I said, now we're up around 1,000 transactions per second, and we're seeing that same kind of trend in account growth. We were excited to see 1,000 or 2,000 accounts created per day just a few months ago, and now we're looking at it and we're creating hundreds of thousands. And we went through a phase where we saw 10,000 accounts created a day, and now we're to the point where we're seeing upwards of 100,000 accounts created per day. We were excited to see 2 million accounts on the mainnet, and that was just a couple weeks ago, and we're already up to 2.5 million accounts on mainnet. And moving down to our fungible token summary, we have some of our usual suspects. We see Xbucks, we see Wrapped HBAR, Sauce, Dovu, and so forth. But we have a new player in town, Karate. We knew we were going to see it last week. We've had over 13,000 Karate transactions over the past week. But we also have Grelf making some moves on another network. What do you have for us on Grelf there, Zep?
Yep, so the Grelf's back, but this time on Avalanche. So they've been ported across by Hashport, of course, and they've set up a super farm on Pangolin. I haven't been following quite how many transactions have been done or anything like that, but we saw the Pangolin official account, which was their first and biggest account within their sort of portfolio, tweet about it and bring attention both to Hedera and Avalanche through that. And when I looked at the comments actually on their sort of inaugural post about this super farm, there's a lot of people that don't follow the foundation, a lot of people that don't follow my account, a lot of people that are foreign to the Hedera ecosystem talking about it, saying that they're looking forward to these rewards, that they're looking forward to seeing another platform over on Avalanche and so on and so forth. So, this was the goal of Grelf, this is the goal of Warlock at the very beginning, was to get this exposure, and it's great to see him sort of realizing that vision.
Yeah, without a question. And moving down to our NFTs, we always have Lethos making its mark with our Asphalt NFTs. We have our naming service in there. We have the cosmetics company Elf-U making its mark. Like always, we see pandas, but we also had some good drops this week. I know Kabila had their drop, and it was really successful. Do you have anything else for us there, Zep, on NFTs this week?
Kabila, a fantastic team. They've done a great job at building the tooling, the infrastructure that we need, but they've also done an amazing job at rallying the community. And that much is clear just when you look at their posts. But I think they did about 650K HBAR volume on their launch, maybe even more than that. I haven't got the official statistics there, but that really is a testament to what they've managed to build. Got both the Spanish community, they've got the English American speaking community. They're all in on NFTs. And clearly that's bringing the exposure both to their project, but also to the NFTs in our ecosystem that we want. But alongside that, there is some news that we should definitely talk about, and that's that there have been some rug pulls recently that can't go amiss. I think the most recent one was DGen Paradise, I believe they're called, and unfortunately that did burn a lot of community members, including Belgian, the HBAR, who's a long time community member. It's one of those things because it's an industry that's built on this sort of pseudo-anonymous users, anonymous founders, but the whole point is that, crypto can achieve that through things like secure trade and all these other innovations. But the thing it can't stop is a founder just pretending to be someone they're not and then rugging. And so we had this conversation, I believe, 2 weeks ago where we were trying to raise awareness around it a bit. But as I understand, this one was sort of a bit out of nowhere. The thoughts go out with the community there. Thoughts go out with Belgian, of course. And I really hope that everyone can sort of persevere here. And I did see some really great coming togethers of the community and spaces. I saw that someone bought one of Belgian's Dead Pixels NFTs, which actually ended up reimbursing his losses, I think, or at least helping towards that. So it was great to see the community rally together despite that loss. But again, everyone stay as diligent as possible, or vigilant as possible, rather.
There's so many good things happening in the space. Kabila is a great example of that, and they sold out in under a minute. But there's also a lot of people that are trying to take advantage in the space. So you have to stay, as you said, vigilant and make sure that you're doing your proper due diligence before getting involved. With that, let's go ahead and get into DeFi. Starting with DeFi Llama, not including state or liquid staking, the total value locked on Hedera is just under $28 million. Saucer Swap makes up 18.4 million of that, up 2% on the week. Pangolin dropped 4% on the week to $7 million total value locked, mainly coming out of their HBAR pair. And HelloSwap is up slightly to $2.15 million. Looking at the farming rewards on some of SaucerSwap's popular trading pairs, HBAR HBAR-X still has an APR just under 14%, 28% on HBAR Sauce, and about the same on HBAR USDC. Over on Pangolin, HBAR HBAR-X is returning about 29%, just over 100% on HBAR USDC, and HBAR and their native token PBAR is just about 300%, bolstered by that drop of TVL in that pair. Taking a look at the markets, there are opposing forces in the risk asset markets with concern over the debt ceiling standoff in the US and relief that it appears the Fed is considering a pause on interest rate hikes. Still, risk assets like stocks and crypto have had a decent week. Bitcoin is up about 2.5%, and HBAR is up nearly 4% to 5.3 cents at the time of recording. The key 5-cent level we talked about last week held, so that's definitely an area of support. And I'd expect resistance around 5.4 cents and again at 5.8 cents. All right, Zep, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
So, I mean, clearly, this has been the week of our governing council. And, we got a new council member, Cofra, who have a huge amount of potential utility, particularly in sustainability to begin with, but I'm sure beyond that as they stay within our council. But also we saw Google hosting us in their amazing looking offices with the governing council on full display. I'm sure piquing the curiosity of a lot of Google office members, which I'm excited for. Hopefully we'll have a lot of Google devs and Google just enthusiasts and workers looking towards our ecosystem. And then beyond that, we saw LG, trying to patent their NFT technology, submitting patents for that. And of course, Hedera will be within that patent somewhere, whether that's just NFTs as a whole with them using Hedera or if it's just Hedera's NFT specifically, we're not entirely sure. But either way, 3 council members this week, all with great news. And, that's what we've always wanted. Of course, we want to see that extra activation from the council, and that's what we're getting. We're at this point in the Web3 industry where it's mature enough for council members to really, really start vocalizing what they want to do and where they want to go. And I'm sure we're only going to see more of that over time. And this really has been a great week for that.
Yeah, the enterprises are not skipping a beat. We are full steam ahead. I do want to say that if anybody has anything they want highlighted on this show, a lot of things that we get, a lot of the ideas come from the community. So don't be shy about reaching out to us, reaching out to Zepsi, and letting us know what you think should be covered, because we want as many ideas coming in as possible. So next week, we're going to have Rob Allen back. So I'm sure he's going to be ready to go after his trip to Everest. We've seen some of the pictures he's had out there. It's been really exciting, but that's pretty much all we have. We'll see you next week.